So my first question is, what's your interaction with youths today?
So, well, thank you, Cecilia, for the question. As a council delegate, I represent 7 regions in northern New Mexico, and coming from just my background is in working with college students at Dinek College, and when I was going to college, we did a lot of community outreach, working with kids who were on TANF, doing a lot of tutoring. And so we wanted to always make sure that students and youth were in part of the solution, so empowering them to solve their own issues. So youth is a critical component in anything that I do as a tribal leader. So in my capacity as a delegate, I'm able to go to Washington and advocate for you here back at home in Window Rock to advocate for the kids. And what we noticed is I can't do that alone. I can't do that with what I think is right. And so we try to have little sessions with the youth leaders, like Navajo Prep, students who are going to like Newcomb, and asking them, what are some of the issues? What are some of the current challenges? And so we know that the way they look at things and the way that the youth look for solutions is very different from what an adult and how our mind is already trained to work. So that's the way we're working with youth. It's kind of not, we haven't developed a method, but we're using social media like Twitter. I'm on Facebook. People email me, text me. And so we're kind of in this new direction too for Navajo leadership, because now predominantly most youth have their own phones or access to a phone. And so they can just text me a question in real time when they have an issue that's going on Navajo Nation.
Okay, nice. What are your plans in future for the Diné youth?
Oh, that's a great question. So, you know, as a woman, as a Navajo woman, as a mother, my heart and my thoughts are always in that home setting. And in that home is the children, in that home is our livestock, in that home is our land and the elements. And so that is always something that's in my mind. And that is always something that we have to create the vision for and have that compassion and that understanding.
Like, what do you expect from Diné youth?
So my expectation is, I actually have a high expectation of Diné youth, because in our own language and in our own thought process, we have solved so many issues, you know, from our journey narrative, from how we have come about as Navajo people. So my expectation is first for them to be engaged, and then for them to provide answers to their problems and their issues. My expectation is for youth to look at what is the value of our language, to look at the value of our culture to solve these issues. Because so far, the Western way or the dominant culture way has proven not to work. We still have high rates of mental health issues, behavioral health issues, access to food. And so I'm looking to the youth and the younger generation to be innovative, to think outside of the box, and provide solutions that we could create a strong future for them.
So a question I have for that is, how can us Diné youth help you help us?
That's a good question, Cecilia. You know, some of the way that any youth on Navajo that can help their leadership is have the ability to get our attention and say, I understand the issue and I'm not blaming you, but I want to be part of the solution. I want to understand as much as I can, and I want to be able to talk to you as leadership and be at the table when decisions are made. That's the way that we're going to be able to close this gap, because I can't advocate and go to Atlanta and talk about your mental health issues or youth suicide without talking to the youth, without asking them, what is going on? What are some of the issues that you find at home? Because we're in a generational, and I'm a pretty young leader. I'm not that young, but I'm a mom. And grandma went to boarding school and that affected my mom. And so now we're seeing how that affects the home with the home teaching. And it's very different. Our Navajo home is very different from what maybe some of our leaders were raised in. And so we need to understand the challenges that the Navajo culture is not being taught at home. And for so many leaders, that's kind of where they think. And so they don't think as a government we should separate the issue. So that's my answer. And I love your shirt, by the way. Look at that, King Tupac.
Thank you. How do you see the voice of Dene youth in government?
So I envision the youth in terms of being a part of the government as being at the table when decisions are made. There's a lot of ongoing issues, chronic issues that take 2 to 4 years to really develop. And my expectation is that youth be invited to have that conversation, and that the voice and the solutions that you bring to decision makers is weighted. That means it's taken into consideration as another delegate or as the president, because as leadership, we're representing the youth. We're representing the homes and the communities. So it's not what Delegate Crotty says, it's what her community says. Mm-hmm. And that's what we want to kind of change the decision of how things are done on Navajo. It's not just all happening in Window Rock. It has to happen all throughout
the nation.
Oh.
So I just have one more question.
Sure.
So far, what you've seen on the youth summit that us NCHO that we're planning, what's your perspective on that?
So I think the youth summit that NCHO is planning for, I believe it's June 1st through the 3rd, yes, at Navajo Technical University, is a fantastic idea. First, because the youth created that momentum. Nobody in an outside program told you, hey, you should do this, and this is where you should have it, and this is what you should do. So I like the idea that you have set a date, set a location, and now the group is going to bring all of the best qualities that they have learned, and they're going to provide that and let other youth know what they're doing. Because you'll learn as a leader, we cannot just have that information for us. We need to teach that next person. We need to pay it forward, make it digestible, make it easy for them to understand, and they could go back home and they could start thinking about, well, how can I solve some of these issues? And some of the things that that NCHO is working on, we need that in every community. So I appreciate that. Actually, I feel, sometimes I feel very honored actually to be here answering the questions and meeting all of the participants, because it's almost like a dream coming true. I get a little emotional, but because we know there's so many challenges, when we see something positive and we see kids, youth are engaged on a Saturday, Sunday, when sometimes community members say our kids are lazy, our kids don't want to do this, this is pushing back and saying if we give them the opportunity, the youth will prosper.
Well, those are all the questions I have to say.
All right. Oh, Hakushi, thank you.